Opinions stated in this podcast should not be used as evidence. Assume that any cited evidence can be found in the related Candor Briefs releases. Thank you, and welcome to Former Partners. Hey, welcome to Former Partners Podcast. My name is Quentin Cooper.
And I am Lucas Monroe.
And we are Former Partners.
Today, we will be discussing the current upcoming public forum topic, which goes, Resolved, the United States federal government should prioritize reducing the federal debt over promoting economic growth.
I hate it.
Yeah, it's it's a little recursive. In the way that a lot of the evidence is vague and it can be cross-applied to both sides just by arguing for specifically different impacts.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like a chicken or the egg conversation. Like pro is going to argue that reducing the federal debt creates growth, and con's going to argue that growth reduces the federal debt. I just hate it.
Yeah, it's a very divisive topic, which they seem to like to do with public forum.
And I just have a fundamental issue with economic topics because there's no simple way to talk about it. You know, I mean, there is, but the evidence is never simple.
Well, yeah, and then you get a lay judge that has never taken an economics class. Their concept of money doesn't extend beyond getting paid at their job and then trading it for goods and services.
Yeah. And it's so hard to explain. I don't like it.
It's just like math or science. There's just a lot of keywords and terminology that until you know what they mean and how they apply to each other, it seems like a foreign language.
Yeah, and it really does. Reading through cards and trying to do research on it, all the evidence is so
interlinked. Yeah. Well, because you read a card that references macroeconomic models, but then you may not know what a macroeconomic model is. So then you have to read about what those are, and it references some Keynesian theory, or what is it?
Keynesian
theory of economics. And so then you have to go read a model on that, and you end up learning the entirety of economics just to figure out what one thing was.
Yeah, you go through a Wikipedia rabbit hole.
Exactly.
It's kind of fun sometimes, but not when you're trying to...
What is that, like 3 clicks to Hitler?
Yeah, I prefer 3 clicks to Jesus.
Oh, my mistake.
Yeah, that's fun. That game is fun.
Getting into divisive topics, there was a quick kind of forward I wanted to give to some of the listeners out there. This is Lucas talking, if you were curious. I, just like some of you, would occasionally get a little too wrapped up in the morality of some of these topics. It's not always easy to talk about things from a perspective that you're saying they're good when you don't agree with the thing that you're talking about.
Right.
A prime example of this would be topics that we had while we were in high school, such as free college. Pretty often you'd get stuck on the tail end of defending that you think college shouldn't be free.
Right.
And it was no fun because you totally believed that college should be free.
Yeah.
And it may not, it doesn't matter if it's right. It's just what you believed in, and you had to argue against your beliefs, and it wasn't always fun. But the ability to separate yourself from that and to look at these things through a logical scope is going to serve you so well in the future. So don't let that hang you up too much. Don't get too bent out of shape. Remember, it is just an activity.
Yeah, because especially whenever you're researching a topic, you learn so much about it, you develop your own opinion on it.
Oh, 100%. Within 15 minutes, if not even sooner than that. Most of these topics you probably already have opinions about.
Which is the point of public forum.
For sure.
Sort of. Not to have your own opinion, but for it to be current events, things that are currently happening.
That people are already thinking about, hopefully.
Yeah. So that being said, yeah, totally agree. Don't get disheartened at having to defend something you don't agree with or attack something that you do agree with. It's over in 45 minutes.
And if anything, you win that round, you get good comments back on your ballot that says, hey, you did a great job. I felt like you were very passionate about this. It means you were able to present yourself as though you did believe about something.
Yeah.
And don't look at that as, oh, I'm a good liar. Look at that as, oh, I'm good at finding a point that I'm trying to make and presenting it in a way that is clear, concise, and logically constructed.
Yep. And that puts you, if it is something you're very passionate about, debating the other side of it puts you in a position to at least understand what the opponent is saying.
And hopefully it'll give you that perspective on any time you're having a disagreement with somebody in your life. It may not be easy to agree with the other side, but hopefully this makes it possible to at least see it.
Just debater things.
Just debater things, indeed. With that, we're going to jump into a little topic analysis.
Yeah, so we're going to be sort of reading off of the Candor Briefs, thoughts on the topic section. So we'll start with just the general idea. Like we said, this topic is sort of a chicken or the egg topic, meaning the debate will probably be about whether reducing the debt creates growth or economic growth reduces the debt. Do you want to talk a little bit about language on it?
Language is obviously important. Generally speaking, you're going to be defining any words that are ambiguous in the definition. Yeah. Ambiguous means you're not sure what it means. The first one that you should definitely think about defining is should, actually.
Yeah.
The word should in some definitions can imply the word ought or mean ought, which then can tie it back to a moral imperative.
Right.
As the pro, I would recommend avoiding those definitions and the use of that language due to the fact that, man, you're just not going to have a good time. You don't want to talk about morality when you're talking about prioritizing reducing the federal debt.
Yeah.
However, con, there's a whole jar of worms you can open with that type of definition, but we'll circle back to that later.
And one thing important with language, and I just heard myself say again. I'm not doing that this time. Yeah,
we got some excellent feedback. We got some excellent feedback on the first podcast. One of the largest things that we got back was a use of vocalizers such as
I say it so much.
Yeah, it's just a space filler like we talked about right before we started recording. Especially
I sounded like Obama.
Well, when you're trying to keep someone's attention, it's better almost.
You keep your vocal track or vocal levels going the same thing. Silence is not good.
Yeah, because that's going to break the attention.
But silence is better than just
Exactly.
So I'm working on it. Sorry.
Any other helpful tips and tricks you have for us, please feel free to comment down below.
Look at us. Hey, guys, I need help speaking. Language is important on this topic because neither side of the topic is necessarily bad. We can all agree that reducing the federal debt and creating economic growth are both beneficial. Most topics, such as the last one, give you the ability to argue harms of voting for the other side. But on this topic, the harms are going to come from not voting for your side. Does that make sense?
One more time.
So a lot of times with topics, you can tell the judge this harm comes from voting for them. You vote for them, this happens, and that's a harm. On this topic, you're going to get harms from not voting for your side.
Well, yeah, I think that on a lot of topics, the negation has the ability to go in and say these are the harms you're getting from voting for them. But on this one, it's almost like there's going to be two pro teams in the room arguing for two entirely different things.
So, for example, the pharma topic, Con could argue that voting pro had the harm of stifling innovation. But on this topic, you won't easily be able to argue that voting for reducing debt or economic growth will have harms, only that your side should be prioritized, and therefore the harm would be for not voting for you.
Exactly.
Which is tough.
Yeah, you're selling a pro case on either side, and the toughest part about it is going to be creating clash.
Yeah.
You're not going to have a lot of clash most likely on this topic, especially due to the fact that the negative has about 35 directions they can take.
Yeah, and pro has one. And that's affirmation versus negation. Pro says yes to all of it. Con can say no to any single part of it. Well, and that's what makes it fun.
Left out the word promoting, and pro would have had
we'll talk about that a little bit.
Pro could have had a lot more angles, but it would have also been pretty pro biased.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Let's talk specificity a little bit. We had a question just about general specificity.
Where did that question come from?
Park Hill High School, Lucas.
I feel like it's important that we throw out where those questions come from.
Yeah,
Again,
you're right.
any of those questions that you send us, if you want us to give you a quick little shout out, include your name in the question and just a little tidbit about giving permission for us to use your name in this podcast so we don't get sued.
Shout out to Park Hill High School for having an interest in this.
Please don't sue
They've
us.
been. No, I got permission. I just forgot to.
Okay.
Yeah, they've been very helpful and very supportive of the podcast.
Thank you, Park Hill High School. I didn't know that you were being that helpful and that supportive. I knew you'd send some questions, but it sounds like you're helping us out.
They were going to send questions for the first topic, but forgot. They had a list and forgot to email it to me.
Thank you, Park Hill High School, for being in second place behind Glendale High School for my most loved right now.
And Carthage.
Oh, that's true.
Carthage is just... They're sort of
But they have that
unbiased.
They have that Brian White guy over
that
there.
Brian White guy. He's so handsome.
I don't like saying Brian White guy. It sounds a little racy.
It does.
Brian White guy.
It does. So, specificity.
We're getting in a hole here. Specificity.
Winning this debate is not going to come from showing how to reduce debt or how to promote economic growth. That does not matter.
True facts. You were talking about which one to prioritize,
Right.
not which one is better.
Every single article you're going to read is going to have 1.5 billion ways that the author thinks that they can reduce the debt or the author thinks that they can promote growth. But those don't matter at all if you don't show why that's preferable to the other side.
And you're probably thinking to yourself right now, well, Lucas and Quentin, if one of them's better than the other, that means we should prioritize it, right? And I'm going to say to you, no, because there's no urgency, and we're talking about a time scale with this resolution.
Yes. This resolution is all about time.
The faster...
I can't snap my fingers very well, but I'm trying to snap my fingers. It's so hot in here. I'm sweaty.
I even have a Band-Aid on, and I can snap better than
Wow. You're such a man.
Thank you. I don't know if that is a thing since I'm wearing a Band-Aid. Toxic masculinity for life.
This is a cute Band-Aid, though.
It's an approved blue bandage because I work at a restaurant.
Specificity. Yeah. We talked about the blue Band-Aid. It sucked all thought out.
I'm really drawing a blank on this one right now.
Specificity, essentially, you can show how to do these things, but it's not going to matter until you show why that's preferable to the other side.
Urgency. Now I do remember where we were. My apologies to listeners. Urgency is really important in this topic. If you're not able to illustrate a time scale on the affirmative or the negative side, just open your drink. Who cares if you have a little tss in the background? Pepsi, please sponsor us. We would love to tell everybody about your great products.
I'm drinking my Mountain Dew.
Exactly. It's so good. There's some free ad love for you. Show us some free love, please.
Yeah, toward the 70 plays we're going to get.
But yeah, creating a time scale is really important because let's say you go up there and you say, well, we need to prioritize reducing the federal debt over promoting economic growth. Yeah. Because if we reduce the federal debt, it's going to create more jobs than if we prioritized economic growth.
Right.
Well, that doesn't really prioritize it for me because then the negative team has the ability to go up there and say, well, yeah, you might make more jobs than economic growth, but economic growth can lead to better education, which leads to a safer society. So you should prioritize it for that reason. And then it's just an issue of who has more impacts on which one is actually better.
Yeah, and there's no clash. It's just
you're just
random arguments left and the right. It doesn't matter.
At the point that you can go up there as the affirmative and say, the U.S. economy will crash in 2019 unless we reduce the debt by $1.2 trillion.
Yep.
That creates a sense of urgency and a legitimate reason to prioritize voting affirmative rather than negative.
Yep. And like many of the cards.
Especially if you can show the only way to get there is by actually reducing the debt. That's the important link.
So what some of the candor briefs evidence is, for example, on the pro, there are a lot of cards that say you cannot create economic growth without first reducing the federal debt. And conversely, you cannot reduce the federal debt without creating economic growth first.
Or promoting economic growth first.
Yeah. Promoting is a big word in this topic.
Which we were talking about language earlier, so we might as well go ahead and talk about that one.
Yeah.
Promoting is a really important word because it's indicative of the idea that you're not just saying, oh, they should make economic growth. They actually have to promote it in some way.
Yeah.
So it's really easy just to say economic growth good. No, you're having to say promote economic growth via the federal government good.
Right. It prevents the con from just saying economic growth. Con with the word promote being in the resolution, con can't just cop out and say, well, yeah, we're con, we create economic growth. No, con is promoting economic growth.
Using the federal government as an actor.
So it makes it so they can't just say economic growth.
You'll hear me use the word actor occasionally. I know that that's mostly a policy terminology. We don't really have actors and actions in public forum, but with resolutions such as these where they hand us an actor, I just use it so you know I'm referring to the U.S. federal government.
Right. It's a scary term. It can be, at least.
Yeah, be careful throwing out policy terms in a puff round, because if the other team's not paying attention, they might just yell counterplan anyway, and then you get into a whole crap storm that you don't want to be in.
It's no fun.
No, it's really not.
Rulebook is never fun. We talked about that last time, too.
There is no rulebook, and that's what really is the big thing.
Well, I mean, there is. It's just pretty vague.
Exactly, and there are technically like 3 different rulebooks.
Yeah. Well, depending on your state.
Exactly.
But the NSDA rulebook, which...
but sometimes it's NSDA.
Yeah, if you're in Missouri
Missouri.
Texas is like the Texas Forensic Association. Like, everybody has different rules, but NSDA, at least, the problem I have with it is their rule books have terminology, but the terminology has no definition. So it'll say no counterplanes in public forum, but nowhere do they define what a counterplane is.
NSDA, we love you.
Yeah, we do.
Define your words.
Yeah, words.
Your words. We have to define our words. You define yours.
Yeah. Hit me up, NSDA. I'll give you some tips.
Also, NSDA, we love you. Free shout outs for you here. I don't know, maybe promote us. That'd be cool.
We kind of have to shout them out, though.
I know, they helped make us.
And, like, without them, this podcast wouldn't exist.
True facts.
Hey, we might see you at Nats. Who knows?
Yeah, that's another thing. If you think that you'd want to come by and see us at Nationals this year, post in the comments, email us, whatever. Let us know if you think it'd be a good idea. If you'd try to shout us out, see us while we're there. We're thinking about setting up a booth. It'll be an undertaking, though, so if it doesn't seem like there's going to be any response, we probably won't do it.
But we've been thinking about it. It would be fun.
If even, 10 of you guys guaranteed that you'd stop by and see us while we're there, we would probably set it up. Yeah. So
I would love to. It would be a Candor Briefs former partners booth.
Plus, it would be an excuse for me to use to get off work, and I would love that too, because then I could spend more time doing this.
A nice little road trip to Dallas.
Is it in Dallas again this year?
Again,
Oh man, why is it every time we go it's in Dallas?
I don't know. So that's what promoting is about. Prioritization kind of does the same thing. In this topic, promoting allows or prevents a cop-out. Prioritization, the word does the same thing.
I would agree.
Let's look at what a definition of prioritize is. From Candor Briefs, January 2019 release.
Actually,
about
from
2 days.
What dictionary?
We have Black's Law Dictionary here. Things that need to be done first ought to be done first. That's what Black's Law says. Oxford says designate or treat as being very or most important, or determine the order for dealing with a series of items or tasks according to their relative importance.
So it would apply to that, because this is about a series of items or tasks.
Right.
So there you go.
That's what prioritize means. If you didn't know, now you know. Determine the order for dealing with a couple of things according to their importance.
Prioritize actually leads us into another one of our questions while we're talking about language that had to do with permutations.
Yeah, let's actually lead that into argumentation.
Okay, just know that we will get to you, though. If you've been thinking about trying to perm on this topic, probably don't, but maybe do.
But we'll talk about it.
We'll talk about it.
It's not necessarily a perm, but the idea behind it. Luke and I are staring at each other right now because I think we disagree. He's staring at me and I'm staring at him, and we're both kind of smiling, but I think we disagree. Do we disagree on this?
I don't think you can permutate in this topic at all.
Okay, we disagree. Let's talk about it in a second.
Okay.
Let's see. Did we answer? Okay. Glendale High School asks what are some tangible impacts we've seen in the U.S. because of high debt?
Shout out to Glendale High School.
Shout out to Glendale High School. Mr. Sutton, you're a beast. Always love you. So, to answer this question, like always, we'll answer it from a pro aspect, as if we were the pro team. How would we answer this? And then conversely on the con side. So, pro always will argue future harms. High debt really doesn't do much right now, but it always has harms down the road. Some of these include high taxes for future generations, like an inflation tax, making it more expensive for us to borrow down the road when we need it, hurting job growth, the crowding out effect, which I'm sure you've heard of. If you haven't, for this topic, look up the crowding out effect. It's very important. It essentially says that debt spending crowds out private investment and hurts growth really bad, which is a big part of this debate. Now, rising debt increases the likelihood of a fiscal crisis. That's one impact of high debt, essentially instability.
So this is where we come back to our time scale a little bit. This piece of evidence doesn't give us an exact date. Obviously, these are all going to be predictions. So
Right.
If you happen to find a piece of evidence that literally says, on January 5th of 2025, the United States economy is going to collapse if we don't just cut the debt right now, you're going to win every round on
Nice,
pro.
yeah.
Good job, but good luck also finding one that's from a credible source and defendable.
I read that in the Bible.
Oh, well, great. We're not going to get there on this podcast. Catch us on our after hours sessions for stuff about that.
Oh, we should do that. That would be fun.
For sure.
Anyway, instability because of high debt.
But the card does talk about how a continuously growing federal debt increases the likelihood of a fiscal crisis in the United States. So this is an impact that you can argue as the pro team. You could say, yeah, as the debt continues to increase, it's going to make investors more nervous. It's going to make the average person less willing to go out and spend more money because they're going to feel as though they need to hoard it in their bank accounts because a collapse is coming, which is actually going to spur on the collapse because they're not spending money. And that's where you can get to peak economic debt, and that's when the economy collapses. Again, getting an exact time frame on that is going to be your best way to win that argument, but that's going to be hard to do.
Right. And let's dive a little bit more deeper.
Well, because why does it matter if there's no time frame on it, Quentin?
Wait, what did you say?
Why does it matter if there's no time frame on a debt increasing bad argument?
Because then why would we do anything about it if it's not going to happen anytime soon or ever,
100%.
as far as we know?
Because we have to think about it now. Every year we hear, oh, the debt's doubled. Oh, the deficit's gone up by 15% this quarter or whatever. And sure, people who play the stock market, high-end business people, maybe they've seen and felt the effects, but the average consumer doesn't. They don't see it. They don't feel it that much.
20 cents more for a gallon of gas, maybe.
Yeah, and even then, it's not something that you are really seeing the full effect of at that level because you're at the bottom line. You're not at the production stage. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you're listening to this and you own a Fortune 500 company and you're like, no, I'm really mad actually about all of these things. I know all about economic trends and investments, in which case, good for you. You're
Congratulations,
smarter than me. And I'm sorry.
Also, congrats on the Fortune 500 company.
Yeah, no joke.
Canterbury's just on his way, dude.
Fun fact, Fortune 500 companies aren't a good way to evaluate the worth of the economy anymore.
Also, that is true. So, another card, Rosenberg, September 14th of this year, says when you are built on such an unsustainable foundation, should market sentiment tip in a negative direction for any number of reasons, the response is likely to be more severe than if we had a healthy balance sheet. Again, we just don't have the final fiscal flexibility to address a major shock, so I believe we are on thin ice that can crack at any time. This is essentially arguing that because of the high debt and our current fiscal situation, if anything negative at all were to hit the economy, everything would break.
And it's really interesting because we have such a reactive economy compared to other economies in history. Like when Tesla's CEO Elon Musk was on Joe Rogan's podcast and they had a marijuana cigarette together and the Tesla stock dropped by like 15% or something ridiculous.
It was insane.
That also happened to coincide with 2 board members leaving the company at the same time.
Yeah, a lot of
which
stuff
wasn't as
went wrong
publicized. There was a lot of things happening. Regardless, public opinion has massive sway over the value of the economy when really the values of the goods and services that are being traded don't actually change.
Yeah, it's insane. The economy is very reactive.
And that is only amplified when you hear something like that, and then the next thing you hear is the $17 trillion debt bubble is about to burst. So you hear about CEOs of large companies doing things they shouldn't, and you hear about the debt bubble about to burst, and you start hoarding your money.
Yep, like the apocalypse. I have all my money in my mattress, personally. I don't trust banks.
Just like Mr. Krabs.
Yep, I think once 2020 rolls around, the computers are going to crash, banks are going to go offline, all the money's going to be gone. Like the end of Fight Club.
But that was a domestic terrorist attack. They made the computers go offline. Spoiler alert.
Technically, they blew up like 30 buildings.
That housed apparently all of the servers for all of the computers in the United States, I guess.
It was such a romantic ending. They held hands. You've met me at a very strange time in my life. As like 30 buildings. The buildings were empty, but still.
I mean, I guess it's romantic.
And he just shot himself like in the map. It was wild.
He did just shoot himself. Also, we should put a retroactive spoiler alert warning in for...
It came out in like 99.
Did it really?
The movie's 20 years old.
No.
Yeah.
Okay,
it looks
well,
so good.
If you haven't seen Fight Club at this point, it's your fault.
Yeah, I found it on the internet like 1080p. I mean, I purchased it.
He found it on the internet at 1080p and then purchased it for download.
Yes, exactly. And it looks so good.
Really?
Yeah. We watched it.
You're right.
Yeah, it looked tight.
It was a good movie.
Anyway, so this question about what was the question about? Fight Club, dude. I love Fight Club.
Downvote us every time we go off topic.
Yeah.
Just kidding. We'll be off the air next week if you do that.
What are some tangible impacts we've seen in the U.S. because of high debt? So the pro side is going to say a lot of things: future harms and instability. That's the easiest way to answer it. That's what the harm is. That's what the potential harm is. On the con side, the con is going to say something along the lines of the economy needs a sufficient amount of debt to function as a cushion. So right now, we need to focus on growth. For example, this card from Krugman 2015 says economists argue that the economy needs a sufficient amount of public debt out there to function. Part of what ails the world economy right now is that governments aren't deep enough in debt. Issuing debt is a way to pay for useful things, and we should do more of that when the price is right. The U.S. suffers from obvious deficiencies in roads, rails, water systems, and more. Meanwhile, the government can borrow at historically low interest rates. So this is a very good time to be borrowing and investing in the future. The debt of stable, reliable governments provides safe assets that help investors manage risks, make transactions easier, and avoid a destructive scramble for cash.
I think I'm just realizing my major hang-up with this topic.
What is it?
It doesn't give us for what purpose it's doing either of these things.
Oh, yeah.
And that's why we're having to provide the purpose as either the affirmative or the negative, and then explain why that purpose is so important that it ought to be prioritized.
Yeah. And that's one answer to framework. Park Hill also asks us about general framework for both sides. Part of the framework should be, what is the end goal?
Mm-hmm. Because the topic as it stands is almost a question. Should the U.S. government prioritize reducing the federal debt or promoting economic growth?
Right.
Because it doesn't really give a reason or a purpose for why we're doing either.
Yeah, it's extemp. I love extemp. I have so many issues with this topic.
That's okay, because it still exists, so we still have to talk about it. And again, just because you disagree with something or don't like it doesn't mean that you can't talk about it logically, concisely, and effectively. And you have a phone call, so we're going to cut.
Hello? NSDA? Yeah, what's going on?
Are you not actually on the phone right now? Was that just you imitating a phone call from the NSDA?
No, I'm on the phone with the NSDA.
Oh.
Yeah.
So Quentin is currently on the phone with the board of directors for the NSDA.
Hey, so listen, can we just change the topic? We can? Sweet. Appreciate it. Let's make it something about, I don't know.
Nukes.
UN peacekeepers, maybe?
I like nukes.
I like peacekeepers.
Peacekeepers control nukes?
All right. Thanks, Mr. or Mrs. NSDA. Appreciate it. Talk to you later. Yeah, we're doing the podcast right now.
Did you just assume the NSDA's gender?
No, I did the opposite. Yeah, I'll talk to you later. I did the opposite.
You definitely put them into a binary category, though.
Oof. Big oof.
Gender politics. Another thing we'll talk about on the late night sessions.
I don't want to. That's a scary one.
That's a good way to get us no listeners overnight. Not to say that we have nasty opinions on it, but to say that it's something that if you even talk about it in the first place, it often turns people away from you.
Yeah. So let's not.
Yeah, that sounds like a good call.
So as con, that's what you're going to say to the question about impacts of high debt. Con is going to say high debt is actually a good thing for our economy. It puts a cushion on it so that people feel comfortable moving assets, investing, that kind of thing.
And this is where economics being part of the topic kind of sucks, is due to the fact that there are whole schools of economic thought that belong to the idea that having a lot of debt, or even sometimes an excessive amount of debt, is actually a good thing for economic growth. Whereas there are an equal number of schools of economic thought where they think that we should have no debt or even a surplus of money if possible. And you're going to find evidence on all of it. So good luck. That's why you need to create a time frame.
For real. There is so much stuff. And a second ago you were talking about time frame because we've been hearing these things for years. Some of this research, you'll Google an argument or whatever, and you'll click on an article and it's saying exactly what you want, and you're like, wow, this is a great impact, this has a great time frame.
And it's from 1966.
And you source it and it's from like 2002.
Yeah. And
you're like, wait, if I'm not mistaken, the United States still exists, and it's 2018. This card's wrong,
Yeah. It's a Mayan calendar situation, and that's something that you can bring up. By the way, that's what my joke about the Bible was about. I guess I didn't get it.
Yeah,
that was the sound of it going right over my head.
Big old
for those
whoosh.
of you not in the audience. Can we talk really quick about the importance of a visual element in your production?
This is what you were talking about earlier.
Yeah, that includes sound effects. So this is going to be a side note. So for the debaters in the room, just pretend that you're still listening to debate things really quick. This is only going to take like 2 minutes. If you're going to create content that is going to be exclusively audio, whether it be music, whether it be a podcast, poetry, whatever, man, you got to make it enjoyable from an audible angle. You can't make it something that requires a visual element to be truly and fully understood. There are these radio commercials that are circulating where I live right now in Joplin, Missouri, and it's for, I don't even know, I think it's insurance or something. It doesn't matter, because it's this girl who's doing gymnastics. She says, hey, my name's Tina, and this is the double back handspring. And you hear her running, just the sounds of feet hitting rubber mats, hopefully.
Do this.
It's like... and she's like, that was a... She's like, that was a triple backflip. And I'm like, are you serious right now? I have no interest in whatever it is you're advertising, because whoever created this did not consider the fact that I need to be able to see this girl doing a triple back handspring to be impressed at all, or to care that she's a gymnast. Like, anybody can sit behind a mic and be like, Quentin, I'm going to do a backflip in the studio right now. Wasn't that a great backflip, dude?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That was insane.
So yeah, that's just a content creation thing. If you're going to do something and you're not going to provide all of the elements required for the listener to enjoy it, you should be ready for people to tear it apart on amateur podcasts.
And that's why talking with your hands during a speech is important.
Honestly, yeah.
But also visual aids are not allowed in public forum. So
don't do that.
I'm just trying to bring it back around.
No, that's okay. I admitted to the fact that this was going to be an anecdote, so we're diving back into the podcast now, and you can start taking notes again.
Oh, also, we're not going to dive back in just yet, because I do want to say we're not getting crazy in depth in this episode on this topic, because we will have another episode on this topic at the beginning of January.
So if you aren't sick of us yet, you can get sick of us then.
Right. And if you want to hear, cases, attacking speeches, rebuttals, that kind of thing, actual argumentation using the topic, that will be the first week of January.
There will also be maybe like a 5 to 10 minute section about crystallization in that next podcast and the importance of really drawing out a concise number of impacts, generally 2 to 4, and how to make those hit through every speech in the round so that your judge is really registering with them, lay or flow. It's a really important technique that I wish I'd brought up in the first podcast. It's going to be so nice for you second speakers.
Dude, I actually thought you were talking about like Breaking Bad crystallization.
No, we're not.
I was like, what?
If you want to hear about Breaking Bad crystallization, we'll be talking about it on the after hours session.
No, Lucas. Sit down. No.
We should buy all of our evidence at Candor Breeze.
If you want to learn how to do that kind of thing, Candy Breeze.
This is Former Parties Podcast, and we're back on track now.
Yes. I remembered how to read. So, another question that we had from Park Hill High School. This is where you tried to go to earlier, and I said, no, not yet.
Oh, the permutation question.
Right.
Okay.
Park Hill asks, can you use the word promote in the resolution as a kink the same way pro uses prioritize? Essentially, they're asking, does the word promote give con the power to perm? So, we disagree on this, which is actually very rare.
Well, and my whole reasoning is not the same as yours due to the fact that I don't think that the word promote really... Actually, no. It's the words prioritize and promote together that matters, but go ahead.
So I think yes. I think you cannot permutate.
He says no, not perm, but yes. Actually, in the brief.
Yeah, the notes say no, not perm, but yes. You cannot perm because just the conditions aren't right for a permutation. But yes, you can make an argument that says no prioritization. Do both.
For those listeners who may not be familiar with what a permutation is, then we may have touched on this in the last topic or the last podcast, but it doesn't matter. Whenever we come across some specific debate lingo, I'm always going to define it just as though it's your first time all over again. But a permutation is where an affirmative is going to make, or a negative is going to make an argument that is inherently atopical, or even just is poorly linked to their side, or maybe even has no link to their case or their arguments. At the time that they do this, and the impact is floating in the air in such a way that it's never been linked, and it may not be detrimental to your case to claim it, you can then go, also, they never linked this impact to their case, so we're just going to go ahead and permutate it because we can do it as well, and we also solve for the topical issues better.
Yeah.
You always have to go back to who solves the topical issues better, but that's essentially what a permutation is.
Yeah, permutation is do both.
Do both, yeah.
And in this instance, permutation doesn't fit. The word permutation doesn't fit, but the idea of do both does. Mm-hmm. On the con side, I personally think you can absolutely argue no prioritization because the con has the power to negate whatever part of the resolution they want.
I think you're going to struggle to find an economic model or any sort of evidence from economists that supports the concept of holding economic growth and debt reduction in together or even in any kind of proportion.
Oh, really? Because there's a couple cards in the Candor Briefs January release that say just that.
I would like to see them.
We can look at them right now.
Cool. That would be dope. Because where I was coming at from this is that due to the fact that the resolution includes the words prioritize and promoting, it's impossible for one side to permutate the other because you can't prioritize promoting both. Prioritizing equals one thing.
Right. So the con is negating the part of the resolution that says prioritize.
They're just doing the rest of the resolution.
Yep.
They can do it, but again, if the affirmative team has created a time frame, they're just going to crush them.
Yeah.
They're going to have to try to come at this from an equally or greater time frame.
Right. And it's going to create a situation. Pro, if you're listening, pro team that's out there debating right now and listening to this through your headphones while the other team is attacking your case right now.
And you're repeating everything we're saying, including what we're saying. Yeah, how about that one?
Keep in mind that at the beginning of this, in the topic analysis, we said you'll never really have to attack the other side. You just have to push your side up more. Pro is going to end up, in some cases, having to attack economic growth. In this instance where con says do both. Pro is going to have to come back and say, no, economic growth's not going to work. Right?
Well, I don't know if they even have to. Again, I'm just going to go back to time frame. And
Yeah.
if you can prove a year time frame and they can't show anything that is a combination of the two in less than a year, they lose.
So here's some of the cards about no prioritization. This one says pursuing both is possible. Just, I like, whenever I cut these, I like to establish one plausibility that the idea is even possible. But then we move into debt halt and economic growth together are required for prosperity, and the best way to reduce debt is growth. So that's
what makes the resolution a little bit recursive, is the fact that they can literally just argue, well, the resolution's it's there. That's everything I need.
Yeah, exactly. Should I call the NSDA back? Should we get them on the line again?
No, it's okay.
All right. I was just going to let you talk to them.
There have been worse topics.
There have been way worse topics. Whew. Anyway, so this topic isn't the greatest. There have been worse, but this one could be better.
Any topic could be better, but it's obviously not going to be perfect.
Yeah. I just really don't like how circular it is, personally.
Yeah, but overly specific topics can lead to bias on one side.
Yeah. You have to meet in the middle somewhere.
This might be a little too far to one side, but what can you do?
Debate it. That's it. So let's look at no prioritization. I really like the argument. I've always liked the argument. Mm-hmm. It lets you sort of take the benefits of both sides if you can argue it correctly. So Rivlin 2013 says American prosperity requires two goals at once: faster economic growth and a sustainable long-run budget plan that will halt the projected rise in the debt. The two goals reinforce each other, and neither can be achieved without the other. Isn't that card dope?
It's a good card. There are going to be a lot of cards that also talk about how you specifically need to target one, though, man. It really is just going to be talking about different base economic models and what is the most ideal. That was air quote.
Yeah.
If you didn't see them, because we don't have visual elements. Sorry. The most ideal.
Is that the sound of air quotes?
Yeah.
Wow. Are we a cartoon now?
At least we're not describing gymnastics.
That was a double back tailspin.
Oof.
Did you like that?
Yeah, it was a good one.
Thanks. The other card that I also like actually says the best way to reduce debt is growth. Now, the source is Rosenberg, September 14th, but in this article, Rosenberg is interviewing a couple of Harvard economists, Carmen Reinhardt and Maya McGinnis. The argument is high debt levels are associated with lower economic growth rates over the long term. This is in part because high debt levels constrain government's ability to respond to adverse shocks. The most desirable way to reduce debt is through growth. So this shows, one, you cannot reduce debt without growth, and two, the best way to do it is together. That's why I like the no prio argument, personally. And that's, if I was debating this, that's what I'd run.
You're just going to have to be cautious of blurring the lines between your sides. As we've already said twice, and we're going to go ahead and make it 3 times so you really remember it. This is a chicken or egg debate topic.
Yeah.
And if you accidentally switch, if you're talking about the chicken or the egg halfway through the round, you're going to confuse yourself, you're going to confuse your opponents, you're going to confuse your judges. And that's why having a clear purpose in your framework and having a clear time frame in your framework both are going to be really, really, really beneficial to everybody involved. Even your timekeeper is going to love you because they're going to be able to follow along.
If you have a timekeeper. There were some tournaments we had to timekeep ourselves.
Well, that's okay because not all schools are big enough and have large enough debate programs to be able to provide timekeepers. But the fact that they still hold tournaments is really wonderful.
It's awesome. Very awesome. And if you're one of those schools that has a small program, maybe not as much funding as another school, shoot me an email. I'd like to figure something out for schools that don't have as many resources as others, because they deserve just as much of a shot.
And maybe show your kids our podcast.
Yeah.
again, we talked about it last episodes. Debate coaches aren't always approachable to every single student they have. As a debate coach, if you're listening to this, you know this. As a student who's had a debate coach that's not approachable for you, you know this.
Yeah, and it's nothing against debate coaches. They don't mean to.
You're a figure of authority, and they're a blossoming person, and sometimes those things don't match.
It's hard to relate.
Yeah, and maybe
Parents just don't understand.
Exactly, and we're a little bit more down with the kids, you might say.
Wow, you just got us put on the subreddit Fellow Kids.
What's that?
You've never been on Fellow Kids?
I've not.
Oh, it's hilarious.
It's hilarious?
It's hilarious.
Understandable.
Yeah. But you just got us put us on there.
Is that good or bad?
That's bad.
Why?
Because it's a subreddit where people post, like, old people trying to do memes and stuff.
Oh, like hello, fellow children.
Yeah.
Yes, I've seen
It's
this.
from that Steve Buscemi. I don't remember what movie it was. But he came in with like a skateboard and he looks like he's like 92. And he's like, hello, fellow kids. Do you want to go hit the skate park?
That was a decent Steve Buscemi.
I don't even remember what he sounds like. I remember him in Billy Madison when he's putting on the lipstick.
Was that him too?
Yeah.
Wow.
I know. He actually didn't look too old in that movie. Why do we do this? Why do we always do this?
Steve Buscemi, if you're listening, we just gave you some free love. Why don't you show us some free love? Help out some high school students. Reach out.
Was he the Green Goblin in the original Spider-Man?
Is he still alive?
Yeah, he is, for sure. No doubt.
Okay.
Google it, though.
We might be being horribly insensitive at the moment.
I'll just cut all this out. If he's dead, this is going to get deleted.
How do you spell Buscemi?
Buscemi?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah. Look at you.
I didn't get booted out of the spelling bee in 6th grade for no reason. I lost on the word Sputnik.
It's a Russian word.
Yeah.
It's kind of dirty to put in.
Yeah.
It's also a proper noun.
Yeah, and my hick of a principal in 6th grade said Spudnik. So I was like, oh, a D. Okay. I know how to read or listen, whatever.
Steve Buscemi is still alive.
He is still alive.
Yes, confirmed.
Shout out Steve Buscemi.
Everybody, we can take a huge exhale because Steve Buscemi is still alive.
Does it say if he was the Green Goblin in the original Spider-Man?
I don't think he was.
I really think he was.
I'm pretty sure that was the guy who played the devil in Ghost Rider.
Yeah, no, you're right. It wasn't Steve Buscemi. They look similar. Just their faces.
Except Steve Buscemi looks a lot more sick.
Yeah.
He's got those eyes.
He does.
I hope he's not actually sick. That would be sad.
God,
if that's why
let's
he
just
looks
stop
sick.
talking about Steve Buscemi.
Yeah.
This is getting bad.
We can talk about the Former Partners podcast.
Former Partners Podcast. You're listening to the Former Partners Podcast.
And I'm Lucas Monroe.
Sponsored by Candor Briefs. Not actually sponsored. We don't make money from either of them, but
We're here.
this is what we're trying to do with our lives. Hopefully you enjoy it.
Last thing.
Did I talk about this one's short because we have another episode?
Yes, you did.
Okay, just making sure.
Just to reiterate, yeah, this one is going to be a little bit shorter than last week's. We're going to hopefully get an official schedule out for each month.
Starting January, we were so psyched about getting the equipment. We started on an off month. We should have just waited till January.
Yeah.
But what it's going to be is the first week of a month is going to be the current public forum topic. The second week of the month is going to be the upcoming public forum topic. So every topic is going to have 2 episodes about it. The third week of the month is going to alternate between LD episodes and policy episodes. And then the fourth week of the month is going to be an IE episode. So we're going to talk extemp, we're going to talk Congress, that kind of thing.
And for those IE episodes on the fourth week of the month, we'll have a recording schedule available on our website. That's going to make it a little bit easier for you guys to get involved with us. But if you'd like to come and maybe be on the show and help us talk about IEs and some ideas for other people in the events, let us know. Hit us up at Candor Briefs or at Former Partners Podcast, either one.
Yeah, we also have to buy another microphone before we can do that. So that's sort of a holdup at the moment. But
it won't be bad. We could use what we have.
We'll make it
to.
happen. So is there anything else on this topic that we wanted to talk about? I think you were about to say something, but I interrupted you.
I think that we have pretty much covered everything we had in our outline for today. So I guess as a closing remark, if you're listening to this in hopes of getting better, know that you're probably doing all right, because of the fact that you care enough about this event and you care enough about this activity to take time out of your day to listen to podcasts by guys like us about these topics shows that you care a lot. And that means more than any amount of ability you could have.
Yep. Some people are literally just naturally good at debate. Other people have to try really hard. And neither is better than the other. What it comes down to is the resources that you seek out.
And it's also about the effort and the care that you put into the cases you make.
Yep.
And the arguments that you make.
And just your time. The more time you spend on it, it's important not to get burnt out. Rest is important. This is something a lot of debaters don't understand, that you do need sleep. You can't stay up all night doing research and then wake up the next day and be at a tournament for 12 hours and do that again on Saturday. You need to rest. Take a weekend off. Get some sleep. Stop doing research for one night. Just chill out. But the effort you put in will come back to you. It may be delayed, but it'll happen. I mean, my freshman year, I was so bad, I got kicked off the team. My mom had to beg the coach to let me back on.
I remember.
Second year, I qualified to state, won a couple tournaments. It's all about the effort. And there is no wall in debate. At least one that's not, you can't break through.
I would agree. This is a really wonderful event for boosting your cognitive abilities. This is a really wonderful event for learning good research methodology. Mm-hmm. It's a really wonderful activity for meeting people and developing a network with which you can share ideas, promote yourself in the future, whatever it may be.
Yep.
Just don't scoff at this. Don't waste this time being so concerned about winning and losing that you can't see speech and debate for what it is. And what it is a wonderful activity that's allowing you to do some wonderful things and to meet a lot of people.
Take, in any extracurricular activity you do, take whatever you can out of it. If it's personal growth, if you learn something, if it's learning teamwork, whatever it is.
You're not going to put your win-loss record in your resume.
Yeah.
But you are going to be able to put the research skills you learned into it. You are going to be able to put your speaking ability into it. And
whatever it grew you into just as a person. So that's important. Don't forget that. Just don't get burnt out because it's so easy.
But this has been Lucas Monroe and
Quentin Cooper.
And this has been the Former Partners Podcast, Episode 2. Thank you for listening. We'll see you all again next week. If you liked what you heard, most of our cited evidence can be found in the January release for the new public forum topic of Candor Briefs. That'll be available in the next 2 or 3 days. Follow us on Twitter at Former Partners for updates. Tweet us if you have any questions. Oh, on the Candor Briefs, promo code Marla. Marla.
From Fight Club.
How do you spell it?
Marla.
That's a good promo code.
Yep. So send me the word Marla for $5 off the Candor Briefs for this topic.
I was hoping for handstand. No.
I can't even spell that. So email us the word Marla for $5 off the Candor Briefs release for this topic. Follow us on Twitter at Former Partners for updates. Let us know if you won a tournament or how you did this weekend in general. Like we said last time, we'd love to congratulate and shout out anybody whose work is paying off for them. I think that's about it. That's all I got.
I don't have anything else to add. I hope you all are having a wonderful life.
As always, we wish you many flow judges and good reasons for decision. Until next time, I am Quentin Cooper.
And I am Lucas Monroe.
Thanks, enjoy, and good luck.
Every time that